LiberalViewer presents.
So, with Ketanji Brown Jackson confirmed as the first black woman on the Supreme Court, Republicans used the occasion to bring up their bogus grievances about the 2018 confirmation hearings for Justice Brett Kavanaugh, including former Republican Congressman Joe Scarborough, host of MSNBC's Morning Joe, who went way too far when he lumped together a Kavanaugh accuser represented by former lawyer and now convicted felon Michael Avenatti with a very credible accuser of Kavanaugh, as you can see in this clip.
It's gotten so harsh. And, you know, we were, a lot of our viewers didn't like it at the time, but when Brett Kavanaugh was up and suddenly we were talking about rape rooms in Washington, D.C. high school parties. I mean, you grew up in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. Were there rape rooms? Like, you know, Michael Avenatti, she goes, no, but if a girl was kissed by somebody else, we'd come home and laugh at her. No, we need to bring this up. And then there were stories in the New Yorker saying, oh, somebody may remember, did he kiss me or not, or did he reach out? Like, this madness on both sides. And Republicans, Willie, said, oh, because Brett Kavanaugh was treated so badly, we're going to show more grace. And oh, so you suggest that she coddles pedophiles? Is that the way the Republican Party restrains himself? By accusing her of being a friend of pedophiles, and other Republicans accusing anybody who supports her nomination as being pro-pedophilia. Doesn't really sound like Republicans really have distinguished themselves much from Michael Avenatti and the people that created the circus around Brett Kavanaugh.
That was a really egregious false equivalency there. And did you catch the part where Morning Joe went too far, minimizing the accusation in New Yorker magazine? Here, I'll play it again.
And then there were stories in the New Yorker saying, oh, somebody may remember, did he kiss me or not, or did he reach out? Like, this madness.
Madness indeed. Now, the New Yorker accusation that Morning Joe just minimized there was from a first-year student at Yale in the 1980s named Debbie Ramirez, but she didn't accuse Brett Kavanaugh of kissing her or even reaching out, but rather that Kavanaugh had exposed himself at a drunken dormitory party, thrust his penis in her face, and caused her to touch it without her consent as she pushed him away. Even though Debbie says she was drunk at the time, there were other witnesses, including several who heard about it when it happened, including one quoted in the New Yorker who said he is 100% sure that he was told at the time that Kavanaugh was the student who exposed himself to Ramirez. He independently recalled many of the same details offered by Ramirez, including that a male student had encouraged Kavanaugh as he exposed himself. The classmate, like Ramirez, recalled that the party took place in a common room on the first floor in entryway B of Lawrence Hall during their freshman year. I remember those details especially because I was in that same freshman class with Debbie and Brett, as you can see from this photo of me returning to Lawrence Hall entryway A as an alumnus in 2004, and while this allegation is old, it's also significant because whatever Brett Kavanaugh did in the 1980s, in his confirmation hearing, he repeatedly denied this allegation under oath, under penalty of perjury, as you can see from his answer to Senator Kennedy here.
Are Ms. Ramirez's allegations about you true?
Those are not. None of the witnesses in the room support that. If that had happened, that would have been the talk of campus in our freshman dorm. The New York Times reported that as recently as last week, she was calling other classmates seeking to, well, I'm not going to characterize it, but calling classmates last week and just seemed very, I'll just stop there. But it's not true. It's not true.
And even more revealing was his answer to Senator Feinstein here.
What you're saying, if I understand it, is that the allegations by Dr. Ford, Ms. Ramirez, and Ms. Swetnick are wrong.
Yeah, that is emphatically what I'm saying. Emphatically. The Swetnick thing is a joke. That is a farce.
He seemed a lot more outraged about the allegation from Michael Avenatti's client Julie Swetnick than the other allegations, and in any case, he repeatedly denied all the allegations under oath, under penalty of perjury, and while I have no personal knowledge as Kavanaugh's classmate about Debbie Ramirez's allegations, some other things he said under oath about his drinking at Yale did not ring true to my experience. For example, in his infamous exchange with Senator Amy Klobuchar, who has talked openly about her father's alcoholism but still got the nasty attack from Kavanaugh in this clip.
Drinking is one thing, but the concern is about truthfulness. And in your written testimony, you said sometimes you had too many drinks. Was there ever a time when you drank so much that you couldn't remember what happened or part of what happened the night before?
No, I remember what happened, and I think you've probably had beers, Senator, and so
you're saying there's never been a case where you drank so much that you didn't remember what happened the night before or part of what happened?
you're asking about, blackout. I don't know. Have you?
Could you answer the question, Judge? That's not happened. Is that your answer?
Yeah, and I'm curious if you have.
I have no drinking problem, Judge.
Yeah, nor do I.
Okay, thank you.
Ooh, kind of a withering look from Senator Klobuchar there, and she definitely got Kavanaugh on the record about not drinking to the point of memory loss, which definitely doesn't match my memory of the people, including Kavanaugh, who rushed the Delta Kappa Epsilon fraternity that just returned to Yale in January 1985 when we were sophomores, pretty much for the purpose of getting around the new higher drinking age. And it also doesn't match the recollection of Jim Roche, whose bed was in the same room as Kavanaugh's in our freshman year and who had the same reaction to Kavanaugh's drinking testimony I did in his interview with CNN's Anderson Cooper in 2018 here.
When Brett started saying things about his drinking and his use of certain words, sexually oriented words, I knew he was lying because he was my roommate. We were in a room together. Our beds were 10 feet apart for a couple of months. What struck me and made me more interested in speaking out about it is not only did I know that he wasn't telling the truth, I knew that he knew that he wasn't telling the truth.
You say that he was and I'm quoting you, a notably heavy drinker even by the standards of the time. That's obviously not sort of how he described himself. Just since this is knowledge you say you specifically have, can you describe what you mean when you say he was a notably heavy drinker?
Well, sure. This is a time not long after Animal House was shown, and people drank a lot. You went to parties and drank beer. Many people did. But there were, even within that environment, there were people who were loud drunks, who were sloppy drunks, who were belligerent drunks. But even by those standards, my memory of Brett was that he was on the far edge of this. He was notably heavier in his drinking than other people. So
Kavanaugh lied under oath about his drinking at Yale, whatever you believe about Debbie Ramirez. And by the way, here's what Jim Roche said earlier in that interview about her. I know Debbie.
Debbie Ramirez.
From Debbie Ramirez. And I know from my experience with her that at least from my perspective, there is zero chance that she is making up this story.
Huh. So Jim Roche was just vouching for Debbie Ramirez's character there, but there were plenty of other witnesses who saw or heard things corroborating her accusation that the FBI never interviewed. And did the FBI ever interview Jim Roche?
By the way, has the FBI talked to you either in any background investigation of Judge Kavanaugh ever? Because a big deal has been made of the fact that he went through more than 5 or I think 6 background investigations for various appointments over the years. Have you, as a freshman year roommate of him, have you ever been contacted by the FBI? And obviously in this latest investigation as well, have you been contacted?
I've been scratching my head about that. I was listening to the radio, I want to say a week ago, and they were talking about Brett having been interviewed by the FBI, backgrounds done on 5 or 6 occasions prior to this. And it struck me that, I was his freshman year roommate, and if you wanted to know how somebody behaved in college, which is a time where, especially that transition from high school to college, where people are likely to have done something that expressed something that might have been a problem, that they would have contacted me, right? 5 or 6 FBI interviews. Now, I started talking to friends. I said, well, is this just sloppy work, or why would somebody not contact a freshman college roommate, his only freshman college roommate, to try and figure out what this guy was like? And this person was quick to say, listen, the FBI are good. They're good guys. They take it very seriously. They do the work that they're told to do. If they didn't contact you, it's because whoever was doing the background check wasn't interested in what was going on at that time.
So just for the record, you've never been contacted either now or in any past investigation?
I've never been contacted about Brett by the FBI ever.
Wow, that's astounding that the FBI never contacted Kavanaugh's college freshman roommate in any of the background checks, and Jim Roche's suspicion that the people in charge of the background check at the Trump White House limited the number of witnesses contacted turned out to be true, as FBI Director Chris Wray was forced to admit under questioning from then Senator, now Vice President Kamala Harris here.
I'd like to talk with you about the Kavanaugh hearings. So I just want to be clear about how the system works. When the FBI was given the direction to do the background investigation as it related to Dr. Ford's allegations, that's an instruction that goes to the FBI from the White House. Is that correct? Not from the Senate?
That's correct.
And when the FBI was directed then to do that investigation as it relates to those specific allegations, was the FBI given full discretion, or was the scope of the investigation limited by the direction you received from the White House?
Well, Senator, I want to be a little bit careful about what I can talk about in this setting.
So I'm clear. I'm not asking you for the content of the investigation,
understood,
just the process.
Understood. There are MOUs and other things that go back a ways that govern this, but I think it's important. I would say this: it's important to understand that unlike most investigations, like the sort that you and I and Senator Jones have all been familiar with, traditional criminal investigations, national security investigations, a background investigation is very different. And that is done, our only authority is as requested by the adjudicating agency.
The White House
in this case is the White House.
And that admission dragged out of the FBI director was later confirmed by other senators who kept investigating, who got a letter last July from the assistant FBI director confirming that the investigation after the accusations against Kavanaugh was limited by the Trump White House to 10 interviews in less than a week with no follow-up, which is why none of Debbie Ramirez's corroborating witnesses were interviewed. Kavanaugh's freshman roommate was never interviewed, and it turned out thousands of tips came into a tip line and were never investigated because they were left to the discretion of the Trump White House. Now, Democrats could hold hearings on this issue and really investigate the investigation of Kavanaugh, but thanks to the bogus narrative about Kavanaugh being mistreated you get from Republicans like Joe Scarborough, this issue energizes the Republican base at least as much as it does the Democrats. Still, beyond the politics, I think it would be nice to get to the truth, but I want to know what you think. Should Democrats who control the House and the Senate at least investigate the lack of investigation into the significant allegations against Justice Brett Kavanaugh? And on the bigger question, do you believe Brett Kavanaugh lied under oath to get onto the U.S. Supreme Court?
I YouTube, you decide.